This is your Daily Dose with Dr. D. Here's Dr. Daniela Schreier.
Hey there, I'm Dr. Daniela, and you're here on Crime Time and to get your daily dose. I'm really glad you're joining me today. So, you always ask me what I'm thinking about the expert witness in the Jodi-Arias case, the recent gentleman that actually spoke for the defense. Now, let me just step back a little bit and try to explain a couple of discrepancies that came up. We have a difference between expert witness and a fact witness. An expert witness, listen, is a person that has been hired and all parties know about that he or she has been hired. And this person is going to derive an informed opinion on the case or the patient, or in this case, the client, and the person relies on data for that. In psychology, that would be we're giving testing and assessment because that's much more reliable than only a clinical interview, okay? So, now listen, the current person that spoke for the defense was an expert witness. An expert witness has a particular education and then also has been admitted by the judge to serve as expert witness. You have to submit your CV, etc., your curriculum vitae, and it comes to the court, and then the court will actually acknowledge and say, okay, we can have this person as an expert witness. Remember, the expert witness in psychology relies on data. This is testing to give a testimony. This is different from a fact witness. A fact witness would be an observer, or it would be a treating psychologist. Treating psychologist, aka a therapist. If you're having a therapeutic relationship with a client, you will not be called in as an expert witness, because even so you might have deep knowledge of the client, you also have established a long-time relationship with them. You often do not have any data. That means you didn't run any testing and assessment batteries, and that means basically you're limited to the information that the client gave to you. And that does mean that you're not objective in your statements because you can only rely on a part of the information. Now, moving forward. So now you know Dr. S was an expert witness. He had been admitted as an expert witness who would testify to data in the court by the judge who had admitted him as an expert. So now there was much confusion, even in TV, including HLN. People were unsure, well, is Dr. S, was he the therapist? And people made statements, but he saw her only 12 times over 3 years. And then other people say, well, he's the expert witness. Yes, he's the expert witness, in my opinion, and he was supposed to provide data, meaning as an expert, I would take on a case. I take on a case and I tell people, well, the outcome is objective. I'm not manipulating any data. I do the interview with the client. I'm running extensive tests. That means sometimes 5 to 10 tests, 12 tests. The more the better. Not always. We don't want to over-test. But I want to take important instruments and then see that the data converges. Data converges, that means that the data overlaps. And that makes sense that I'm integrating my interview and what I'm finding in the tests, and then I write my report based on that. So Dr. S said that he's not so much into the linear reporting, that means, or linear assessment, and he also said that he only used 2 tests. There's never any criticism in regards to my colleague, because everyone does what he does. But in my opinion, especially for the Jodi-Arias case, the complexity of the case, I would have run a series of tests, not only 2 tests. Also, very interesting, he said he saw her 12 times over 3 years. For me, a testing and assessment report doesn't take 3 years. It takes a couple of months. Look into child custody, you will actually interview both sides, mother and father, and children, and all collateral information available. Collaterals that might be boyfriends, new girlfriends, or it might be grandmother. Everyone, even teachers who have information about the situation and the child. And then you run tests, and then you write your test report. I also generally don't necessarily see a client for that 12 different times. I see them for a very intense clinical interview, and that might take 3 days, full days. I ask all the questions and the client will give the answers. The fact is they can lie or they cannot lie, but It's not repetitively, as we heard in court, that, oh, we went back and then she reinvented her story in the case of jodi-arias. No, I'm seeing a client. I make it clear to them that I am not their treating psychologist. The relationship that we establish is different in nature. Yes, it should be trusting enough in order for them to know that I'm only admitting the information or writing down the information that they say and nothing else. But that's it. So it's different from therapy. So maybe the clinical interview would be 3 days. I'm also not working on that clinical interview when the lawyer is there. This is client, therapist, or client, in this case, sorry, evaluator, private time. So the next thing that we heard was, well, jodi-arias came up with different stories. And if that was the case, I would note that down in my report. But I'm not inquisitive about it, or I'm not pushing her towards different stories. She gives me her stories. I note them down. Also, I will note down all the behavioral observations, if they are appropriate, how she behaves with me. Is she cooperative? Is she always not answering the question and moves on to something else? After that, I give an extensive series of tests that are appropriate to the situation. I can't mention them here, no need, but I would give more than 2 tests in this case, okay? And after that, I write a report. The report contains all the information that was given, succinct as possible. I come up with a diagnostic clarification because I also go for diagnosis during the interview. In my forensic evaluations, I was taught always to record and document everything. And why is that? For the safety of the client, so they know I do not have anything in the report that they didn't say, and also for the safety of myself, because a defendant can always come back and say, well, she made those stories up, I never said that. Okay, so there were a couple of discrepancies that we already can point out that actually maybe were very apparent last time with the expert testimony. Many of you actually came and told me, well, we found that there was a complaint against Dr. S. Isn't that unethical? He's not trustworthy. Well, sure, it might go towards trustworthiness, but remember, he might have been reprimanded because, as you sent it to me and I was reading it, he has made a child custody recommendation without interviewing the mother. Yes, that is very preoccupying. It's very worrisome. But on the other hand, see, the board sent a notification to him. They told him, obviously, that he has to come up with several solutions and need to take CEU, that means continued education units, in order to make up for it. Obviously, he fulfilled the requirements and he is licensed to practice. He has an extensive experience, plus he was admitted to the court as expert witness. If he's credible or not, that's up to the individual jurors, as a matter of fact, and to you at home. Thank you for staying with me through this lengthy podcast, but there were so many discrepancies that I'll love to share with you. I hear from you soon via tweet, let me know. And thanks for being here with me. This was Dr. Daniela, and this was your Daily Dose, aka Crime Time. Bye, take good care.
This has been your Daily Dose with Dr. D. For more, go to doctordaniela.com. That's doctordaniela.com.